I can't believe I'm actually saying this after what seems to be the craziest season in Cincinnati history. We still have a chance to make the playoffs. Sitting at 5-8 right now, we are currently outside the bubble, seed number 10, but we still have a chance to make the playoffs, and it's not as far fetched as you think. And I just got to jump right into it because this might be the craziest thing to ever happen in the NFL if it truly does happen. So I just want to show the rankings right now. Basically, the only chance Cincinnati has is that 7th seed, the last spot in the AFC side of the playoffs. Right now, it is currently held by the Denver Broncos. Then on the bubble, it goes the Colts at number 8, then the Dolphins at number 9, and then us, the Cincinnati Bengals, at number 10. And there's a lot of things that have to happen. A lot of things that have to happen for us to move from 10 to number 7 at the end of the season and be officially in the NFL playoffs. And I never thought, like a couple videos ago, most of the videos I was like, playoffs are not an option this year. It's kind of just, let's see how fun the rest of the season can be. But now I'm not still like we as of right now where we said we have a 3% chance to make the playoffs. 3% chance to make the playoffs. So there's a lot that has to happen. But just the fact that how crazy this season has been, how far we are into the season, and that there's still a little chance, like there's still hope that we might make the playoffs. It's worth at least envisioning. So, without further ado, let's go through the scenario in which the Cincinnati Bengals end up in the AFC NFL side of the playoffs. So, I'll be going back and forth between the big graphic so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about and this view when I talk about it in depth. But first, let's just look at what teams we have to be focusing on. And these are the 4 teams we have to be focusing on. Obviously, we got to focus on the Denver Broncos, the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals. That is the 4 teams we'll be looking at today. So let's just get going. Here we go. So this is Cincinnati Bengals road to the playoffs. So the Bengals, their remaining schedule is this weekend we go to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Then we go to Cleveland, take on the Browns. Then Denver to take on the Broncos. And then finally go to Pittsburgh and take on the Steelers. Sorry, the Broncos and the Browns come to Cincinnati to playoffs. Sorry. Broncos remaining schedule. They host the Colts, and then they go to the Chargers, and then to the Cincinnati Bengals, and then finally host the Kansas City Chiefs. Colts, they go to Denver, and then host Tennessee, and then on the road back-to-back weeks at Giants, and then at not back-to-back weeks, but then they host the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, finally, and the Dolphins, they go to the Texans, but then host the 49ers, and then they finish the season going to Cleveland for the Browns and going to New York for the Jets. And all this, and there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. A lot of stuff that has to happen. But without further ado, I know I've said that a few times now, but let's just look. And the most obvious thing, when you first look at it, what's the first thing that jumps at you? It should be very clear. Cincinnati has to win out. Cincinnati has to win every single game. They have to go to Tennessee and win. They have to beat the Browns, sweeping the Browns, and then they have to beat the Broncos, and then they have to beat the Steelers. It's not truly as far-fetched as you think. The one game I'm truly nervous on, and the season is riding on this one game, is against Denver. Tennessee, we're a better team than them. We should beat them. Cleveland, we've already beat them once. Not saying it's easy to sweep a team in the regular season, especially a rival, but Cincinnati is a much better team than Cleveland. Cleveland has looked like a different team since Jameis Winston has started playing football, starting playing quarterback for him. So that's going to be a little bit of a bump right there too. And then at that time, I think the Steelers will be resting their starters by then anyways. So I think that should be a win for us too, because they would want to rest their starters for the first playoff game. So obviously the first thing that has to happen is Cincinnati wins out. They have to win out. Now this is when it gets a little bit crazy, and I'm going to put up all of what has to happen for the rest of these 3 teams, what has to happen. But once again, Cincinnati, the only way we make the playoffs is if we win out. And if we win out, we sit at 9-8. So let's look at what the rest of the teams have to do for us to move into that seventh seed. The Broncos, they have to lose 3 out of 4 of their next games. They have to lose 3 out of 4. Colts have to lose 2 out of 4, and the same with the Dolphins. Dolphins have to lose 2 out of 4 for Cincinnati to make the playoffs. So in this exact scenario, if this exact thing happens right here, like I'm showing you, Cincinnati Bengals are the 7th seed in the playoff. Cincinnati wins out, then Denver wins against the Colts, but then loses out, and then Colts lose the first 2, win out. Dolphins lose the first 2, win out. Cincinnati is the number 7 seed. So why this order in particular? Cincinnati obviously has to win out. We can only get the 7th seed, and that's right now held by the Denver Broncos. The Colts and the Broncos are playing each other, so one of them is going to have to win that game. One of them is going to have to lose that game. Most likely, this is the game that Denver is going to win. And then they go at Chargers, at Cincinnati, and then to Kansas City. The one thing that is really scary is the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs have already locked a playoff spot. So by their last week, they might as well, just like the Steelers, bench their starters. So that's the game where you're kind of like, yeah, like, please play your starters. Please go beat the Broncos. Because you got to know, it's the Chiefs and the Bengals are a rival. Imagine if that was the last game, like this game decided it. If the Broncos win, the Cincinnati Bengals are out. Cincinnati Chiefs win. Cincinnati Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs win. Bengals are in. If I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm saying, hey, just bench everybody. I don't want Cincinnati in the playoffs. Just because of the rivalry. But why do this order? They play 3 of their hardest teams of the schedule pretty much their last 3 weeks, so it's more likely they lose. Those are the 3 games they lose. Colts, their toughest matchups are the first 2, and honestly, the Colts is probably the scariest team that we have to look out for, considering their last 3 games are Tennessee, New York, and then Jacksonville, 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. But why I have them losing to the Titans is that Brian Callahan, the head coach of Tennessee, is going to do a favor for the Bengals, give them a nice Christmas gift, and beat the Colts, because Brian Callahan, if you don't know, was the former Bengals offensive coordinator. And then the Dolphins, 2 hardest games left are against the Texans and the 49ers. So if they lose both of those and then win out, it doesn't matter. Cincinnati's in. So this is the exact scenario that has to happen. If all 3 of those teams lose out, obviously Broncos and Colts, one of them cannot. But let's say the Broncos lose against the Colts and then lose out. That's better for us. But then we also have to hope that the Colts are going to lose 2 more of those games. So this right here, because if the Colts win, it kind of gets a little bit shaky because now you're rooting for 3 of the worst teams to beat the Colts, which is our pretty solid team. But this scenario right here is exactly what we should be rooting for as Cincinnati fans. And I'll be updating on Twitter and every Monday after a game, after my reaction to the game, I'll be going over what it's looking like right now. If we get eliminated, obviously if Cincinnati loses, we're done. So if you see a Cincinnati game and we lose, the playoff chances are dead. But no matter what happens this week, if Cincinnati wins the game this week, we can't get eliminated. No matter what happens, we can't get eliminated this week alone. So if Cincinnati wins, they're still in the playoff picture on the bubble, per se. If we win this game, we cannot get eliminated. But we got to root for. Once again, Cincinnati. I'll put it big so you guys can see it. Cincinnati has to win out, win the rest of their games, then root for Denver to lose 3 out of 4 remaining games. Colts to lose 2 out of 4 remaining games, and then finally the Dolphins to lose 2 out of 4 remaining games. I know this is a lot. I know it's a lot, but it's not as far-fetched as you think. I really don't think it's as far-fetched. To me, when looking at that, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. Obviously, it's a little bit far-fetched because you're rooting for Broncos, who have been turning it up and one of the hottest teams in the league, to lose 3 out of the 4 of the rest of the games, which is a big ask. But realistically, the fact that Cincinnati just has a chance at all to go to the playoffs after the kind of season that we have had is a miracle. It's literally a miracle. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, getting a little bit of sliver of hope that the Cincinnati Bengals can actually make a playoff run. And I'll be letting you guys know and updating you on exactly what is going on and what are the chances of Cincinnati making. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Like the video if you did. Comment on how realistic you think this expectation is of what Cincinnati can do and make the 7th seed in the playoffs. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bengals Digest channel for all your news, rumors, updates, everything Cincinnati Bengals going on is happening here right now on the Bengals Digest channel. I'm Carson Lokey. Thank you so much for watching. Good night, and God bless.